welcome ministers.
Thank you, Your Excellencies. Namaste. Dear participants, welcome to the India-Japan Environment Week today. I am Aya Manabini from Overseas Environmental Cooperation Center, Japan, and I will be the MC throughout the 2 days event. This India-Japan Environment Week is jointly organized and made possible by leading institutions both from India and Japan, including Federation of India Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Japan Chamber of Commerce and Industry in India, the Ministry of the Environment Japan, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change India, Invest India, the Energy and Resources Institute, Overseas Environmental Cooperation Center, as well as many other organizations that play important role in environmental policies and business. First, to start this special event today, I am pleased to invite His Excellency Mr. Akihiro Nishimura, Minister of the Environment Japan, for his opening remark. Your Excellency, please.
Hello
everyone, I'm Akihiro Nishimura, Minister of the Environment of Japan.
ブペンドラ・ヤーダブインド共和国環境森林気候変動大臣、そして若森進インド日本商工会会長、スブラ関東パンダインド商工会議所連盟会長、そして我が日本の鈴木博駐インド日本国大使、ご協力いただいております関係機関およびご列席の皆様、日本国政府を代表いたしまして、日本、インド環境域のご参加を心より歓迎いたします。
Your Excellency, Minister Bhupendra Yadav for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and Mr. Susumu Wakamori, President of Japan Chamber of Commerce and Industry in India, and Mr. Subrakant Panda, President of Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and our Japanese Ambassador, Hiroshi Suzuki to India, and all parties supporting this event, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to extend my warmest welcome to all participants to Japan-India Environment Week.
インド環境森林気候変動省とは、2018年の環境協力覚書の締結以降、緊密に協力してまいりました。これまでの協力関係をさらに発展させ、本日、本環境ウィークを共催できますことを大変嬉しく思っております。
Ministry of the Environment of Japan has, since concluding Environment Cooperation Memorandum in 2018, have been in cooperation closely with MoEFCC. It is a great pleasure to co-host this Environment Week with Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change of India by way of further strengthening our relationship.
世界の環境問題を解決していく上で、 主要経済国が介する G7 および G20 の行動が重要であります。今年の G7 議長国を務める我が国日本と、そして G20 議長国を務める帰国インド共和国が緊密に連携して、気候変動や生物多様性、そして循環経済、プラスチック汚染などの環境問題について、国際社会の議論をリードしていくことが重要でございます。
In order to solve global environmental issues, actions demonstrated by G7 and G20 countries, which constitutes of major economies in the world, is the key. Japan will preside G7 this year, and India will preside G20. And these two countries must closely cooperate to lead the way in discussions among international society on such environmental issues such as climate change, biodiversity, circular economy, and plastic pollution.
例えば、2021年、帰国のモディ首相は、地球環境を守るため、個人のライフスタイルの変革を推進するライフスタイル・フォー・エンバイロメントを提唱されました。
And for instance, in 2021, His Excellency Prime Minister Modi started the Lifestyle for Environment initiative to promote reform in individual lifestyle to protect the global environment.
我が国も昨年、脱炭素につながる新しい国民運動を開始して、企業や自治体、NGO 等と連携して、ライフスタイルのイノベーションを推進しているところでございます。
Japan also started last year a national movement to drive decarbonization. The government of Japan cooperate with businesses, local governments, NGOs to promote lifestyle innovation.
国民の皆様のライフスタイルの変革が脱炭素の鍵を握るという問題意識を共有するインドとともに、世界のライフスタイル改革、そして行動変容に取り組んでまいりたいと考えております。
Since the two countries of India and Japan share the common awareness that lifestyle reform is the key to decarbonization, we shall drive it across the world along through our friendship.
先ほど、ヤーダブ大臣とバイの会談をいたしましたが、その中においても共通点を見出したところでございます。
And earlier, I had a great pleasure of having a bilateral meeting with His Excellency Minister Yadav, and it was quite pleasurable that we have to discover that we have a common awareness.
また、パリ協定が掲げる 1.5 度目標、これの達成に向けたさらなる排出削減には、民間資金の動員が不可欠であります。
Also, in order to further reduce emissions toward the 1.5-degree target by the Paris Agreement, mobilizing private sector fund is indispensable.
このため、日本政府は COP27 において、インドを含む70カ国以上の国や機関の参加を得て、質の高い炭素市場の構築に向けた国際パートナーシップを立ち上げました。
And for that matter, the government of Japan at COP27 embarked upon international partnership towards establishment of high-integrity carbon market with participation of more than 70 countries and organizations, including India.
本環境ウィークにおきましては、両国における環境分野のビジネス創出に向けたさまざまな展示会、ビジネスマッチングおよびセミナーを実施いたします。
In this Environmental Week, we host a wide variety of exhibitions, business matching, and seminars.
両国で優良事例というものをしっかりと広く共有して、官民投資の促進に貢献してまいりたいと思います。
And these events will encompass participants from both countries. Let us share a wide range of good practices to contribute to promotion of public and private investment.
今回の機会が両国の環境協力の新たな幕開けとなることを記念いたしまして、開会のご挨拶とさせていただきます。
In closing, I would like to extend my wish that this event will be a new starting point of cooperation in environment areas of both Japan and India.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I now request His Excellency Mr. Bhupender Yadav, Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change of India, to kindly deliver the opening remark. Your Excellency, please.
His Excellency Mr. Akihiro Nishimura, Honorable Minister of the Environment, Japan, Mr. Hiroshi Suzuki, Ambassador of Japan, Mr. Shushmu Wankamori, President, Japan Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Shubhrikant Panda, President, Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, invitees, delegates, and officials from Japan and India, friends, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, on behalf of India and my ministry, I would like to extend a warm welcome to His Excellency Mr. Akihiro Nishimura, Honorable Minister of Environment, and the delegation from Japan for the India-Japan Environment Week. It is a coincidence that both Japan and India have taken over presidencies of the G7 and G20, respectively. This is an opportunity for both countries to set the agendas and priorities for shaping the future of the world towards Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, or One Earth, One Family, One Future, which is also the theme of India's G20 presidency. For India, the G20 presidency also marks the beginning of Amrit Kal, the 25-year period beginning from the 75th anniversary of its independence on 15th August 2022, leading up to the centenary of its independence, towards a futuristic, prosperous, inclusive, and developed society distinguished by a human-centric approach as its core. It is our firm belief that to save Mother Earth from the planetary challenges of climate change, pollution, loss of biodiversity, we need collective action guided by the founding principle of the Rio Conventions. In recent decade, it appears that conspicuous consumption is pulling humanity toward their threshold capacity and beyond our Earth's carrying capacity. Unsustainable production and consumption need urgent attention if we are to confront these crises. Even at the recently concluded COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, the importance of sustainable lifestyles and sustainable patterns of consumption and production in global efforts to combat climate change was underscored. Mission Life, Lifestyle for Environment, was launched by our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji in the presence of the UN General Secretary Antonio Guterres at the State of Unity Ekta Nagar, Gujarat. First proposed by the Honorable Prime Minister at COP26, Mission Life is envisioned as a global mass movement that will nudge individual and collective action to protect and preserve the environment. As the world's most populous democracy and a vibrant emerging economy, India seeks to lead by example and invite the global community to be a part of Mission Life for individual, family, and community-based actions. In this connection, I would like to mention furoshiki, originating around 710 BC, which is a square-shaped Japanese tradition. Warping cloth is eco-friendly and used a wrapping gift, carrying goods, or as a decoration. The reusable furoshiki is a sustainable alternative to traditional plastic wrapping paper. India expressed its appreciation for various initiatives taken by Japan to strengthen economic cooperation with India. During the India-Japan Summit held in March 2022, the Prime Ministers of both the countries recalled the establishment of the India-Japan Industrial Competitiveness Partnership in November 2021 and welcomed the formulation of a roadmap under the IGES to further promote industrial cooperation between the two countries, including the area of MSME, manufacturing, and supply chains. It is the need of the hour to orient the industrial development towards sustainable production and to be a tool for nudging the sustainable consumption. As for India, it is making rapid strides toward including an overall sustainable development while ensuring decoupling of growth with the emissions. This is being done through very active participation of all players at the national, state level as well as the Indian industries. This is an opportunity for both countries to discuss the challenges and solutions related to climate change, marine litter, air pollution, and sustainable transports and technologies, environmental issues to help us pave our ways towards a green, circular, and sustainable future and explore ways of promoting sustainable production and consumption. We look forward to meaningful collaboration with Japan's G7 presidency with holding the G20 presidency and hope that the fight against climate change will unite the world as one family. To conclude, I would like to state that to build a better world and a better future leaving no one behind, we should promote just and equitable growth for all in the world in a sustainable, holistic, responsible, and inclusive manner. This is also India's unique approach of living in harmony with its surrounding ecosystem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellencies. May I now request Mr. Susumu Wakamori, President of Japan Chamber of Commerce and Industry in India, to kindly deliver the opening remark. Mr. Wakamori, please.
As was mentioned in the kind introduction, I am Susumu Wakamori. I am President of Japan Chamber of Commerce in Industry in India, and also I'm Chairman and Managing Director of Marubeni India as well. I'd like to thank the Ministry of Environment in Japan and the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change of India for organizing and hosting this India-Japan Environmental Week. The JCCII has been submitting our set of proposals for improvement of business environment to Indian government since 2009. And as a matter of fact, on November 22nd, the last year, we submitted our most recent set of proposals to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry of India. In that latest proposal, there are 3 direct initiatives that could potentially lead to an improvement in the environment. The first is the establishment of the Japan-India Bilateral Credit Mechanism, JCM. We believe it will serve as a mechanism to attract technology and funds from abroad to India. The second one is, the second one is related to vehicle modernization program announced by the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways of India, which aim to reduce the number of old and poorly maintained vehicles and air pollution caused by those vehicles. We recommended that the establishment of inspection stations by car dealers, and also recommend that the early implementation of the first inspection of private cars. Many countries around the world have adopted this system, including the United States, the United Kingdom, and Japan. The third is the introduction of regulation on formaldehyde components, for example, from the adhesive, and the regulation on the use of asbestos for the construction and for friction materials for automobile and industrial equipment. We believe that the early introduction of those regulations is necessary to reduce the risk of health hazards to Indian citizens. JCCII will continue to contribute to the development of the better society in India by creating virtuous cycle between the environment and the economy, including the expansion of private investment, while contributing to environmental issues, especially climate change countermeasures. I would like to conclude my remarks by expressing my hope that this India-Japan Environment Week will help promote collaboration and technology transfer between the private sector in India and Japan. Thank you very much. Dhanyavad.
Thank you, Mr. Wakamori, for your remark. May I now request Mr. Subrakanto Panna, President of the Federation of India Chambers of Commerce and Industry, to kindly deliver the opening remark. Mr. Panda, please.
His Excellency Akihiro Nishimura-san, Honorable Minister of the Environment, Japan, Shri Bhupender Yadav-ji, Honorable Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India, His Excellency Ambassador Suzuki, Susumu Wakamori-san, President, Japan Chamber of Commerce and Industry, senior government officials, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to welcome all of you to the India-Japan Environment Week organized by the respective ministries of both countries in partnership with FICCI. India is playing a proactive role in setting the global agenda for climate action and sustainable growth. I congratulate the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change for its efforts in this critical area, not only in India, but also at the world stage. Of course, the vision comes from our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji himself, who is committed to the concept of life, or lifestyle for environment, which builds on India's ancient sustainable practices in the modern context. Japan and India have collaborated for decades in the environmental domain. Japan has not only brought in significant technical expertise in specific areas, but has also helped to build capacities of its institutions, along with the important contribution of Japanese technology and know-how. Several Japanese companies who are leaders in cleaner technologies and processes have been present in India for decades. Going forward, Japan and India together will certainly play a crucial role in each other's environment journey, and as was mentioned earlier today, The coincidence of India assuming the presidency of G20 and Japan assuming the presidency of G7, I think, is something that will be of mutual benefit to not just both countries, but the world at large. India-Japan trade and investment relations have seen tremendous growth in recent years, thanks to the dynamic leadership and personal rapport of Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji and former Prime Minister late Shinzo Abe-san, which put the bilateral relationship on an elevated footing. The groundbreaking Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed railway is one example of a historic moment in our relationship. Japan and India share the vision of free and open Indo-Pacific and have deepened their cooperation under special strategic and global partnership. High-level meetings under the Quad Initiative and foreign and defense ministerial meetings known as the 2+2 have also been held recently. It is heartening to note that in recent years, special emphasis has been accorded to cooperation in areas like digital infrastructure, climate change countermeasures, and supply chain resilience initiatives for promoting social innovation to build a decarbonized society and achieve carbon neutrality by 2070. FICCI has been at the forefront of promoting partnership with Japan and has been supplementing Government of India's efforts through its holistic agenda and institutional partnerships such as the India-Japan Business Cooperation Committee, among others. I am happy that FICCI, in partnership with the JCCII, is organizing the 46th annual meeting of the India-Japan Business Cooperation Committee on 9th February with an overarching theme, India-Japan Cooperation on Sustainable Society for Future Generation. Other engagements include the Forum of Parliamentarians, dialogue with states, and many others which are also facilitated by a representative office in Japan. Initiatives such as the Japan-India Startup Hub in Bengaluru and NASSCOM's IT Corridor in Hiroshima Prefecture would also attract highly skilled talent and establish collaboration between the respective industries and institutions. This will certainly bring about a convergence between India's flagship programs such as Digital India, Startup India, and Smart City with Japan's Society 5.0 to promote societal and sustainable benefits. While Japan has largely succeeded in decoupling economic growth from the consumption of natural resources directly, India, being one of the fastest emerging economies in the world, faces the challenge of achieving economic growth and development in the face of limited carrying capacity of the environment, necessitating the need for sustainable development strategies at policy and program levels. Indian industry strongly believes and propagates the synergies and interlinkages between development and sustainability. There is growing understanding and recognition of the Sustainable Development Goals and its significance for the private sector to transition to cleaner technologies and resource-efficient approaches for the future. FICCI has been working with business and industry on sustainability through the FICCI Environment and Climate Change Committee. Our 7th International Sustainability Conclave, scheduled in February, will focus on corporate actions for a sustainable future, and we certainly look forward to Japanese companies engaging with us in this key event. I would like to mention here that the Indian government has brought in amendments and regulations for municipal solid waste, plastic waste, electronic waste, and construction and demolition waste. This provides a great impetus through the creation of a market for waste management in India. There has been an effort to encourage alternative use of plastic, and Japan can certainly help in the technology and know-how for sustainable alternatives to plastic and sustainable use of plastic waste. Clearly, there is tremendous potential for Indo-Japanese environmental dialogue, which will bring about transformative ideas and practical solutions for current challenges while showing the way ahead for business and industry. I'm extremely hopeful that through this forum, we will find out ways to support mutually beneficial partnerships in interdependencies. And certainly on behalf of FICCI, I would like to commit our efforts to promote these discussions and also play an active role in the engagement between our two great nations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Panda, for your remark. Now, we are moving on to the photo session. I would like to request VIP speakers to come up to the stage. May I also invite His Excellency, Mr. Hiroshi Suzuki, the Ambassador of Japan to India, and Ms. Richa Sharma, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, India, to kindly join the speakers on stage. Registered press representatives and camera staff, please come to the front and follow the guidance by the staff. Thank you. Thank you. Once again, I would like to express my appreciation to the VIP speakers for their opening remarks. I would like to thank both ministers for their participation. Dear participants, please be seated. Now, we are moving on to the keynote speech. For the first speech, entitled Environmental Policy Trends for Building a Decarbonized Society in India, I would like to invite Mr. Rajini Ranjan Lashumi, Distinguished Fellow TERI, former Special Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Mr. Lashumi, please.
Okay. Very good morning to all of you. First of all, my gratitude and thanks to the organizers of this very important event in the history of economic cooperation and environmental cooperation between two countries. You have listened to the two interventions by the Honorable Minister of Environment from India and from Japan. They pointed out some of the important areas where we can perhaps cooperate. What I'll try and do is give you a background of the evolving policy scenario in India where these areas of cooperation get prominence. Let's look at the issue of decarbonization in India, which has become extremely important in the context of the climate goals, which the international community has set for the world as a whole, and our own government has set for India. Given the fact that Japan is looking at India very closely in terms of decarbonization initiatives, it's important that we address this issue in the larger perspective. What is it that India can do, where India and Japan can do together? Now, globally, if you look at the entire emissions profile of the country, because we are looking at the decarbonization process, where basically the thrust is on moving towards alternative fuel systems and decarbonized energy system, not just in the electricity production, but across the economic area, all the sectors of economy like transport, agriculture, industries, all put together. So all put together, where does India stand in the global emissions profile? India at the moment contributes about 7% of the global emissions. And the global emissions come from various sources. They are not just in terms of carbon emissions, they are methane, nitrous oxide, which also are of globally warming character. So, but their proportion is much less. The carbon dioxide, which comes from the carbon consumption in the energy system and across other economic areas of activities, that constitutes almost 75 to 80% of the global warming emissions. And India contributes about 7%. And mind you, even if currently we are emitting, as far as the ranking is concerned, third, but if you look at the volumes, the China and the US and other developed countries obviously are much ahead of us, both in terms of the current emissions and the historical emissions. So given this profile, if India takes ambitious actions, ambitious climate actions to reduce its carbon footprint, carbon imprint, then what happens? This is the policy profile which India has announced for shifting away from fossil fuel based energy consumption towards alternative lower energy system. First is we announced a National Action Plan on Climate Change way back in 2008. Then followed the Copenhagen goal, where we said that we will reduce the emissions intensity of our output, the GDP, by 25%, and we have already achieved it. Then came in 2015 the nationally determined contributions under the Paris Agreement. Those of you who have been following this, they are aware that one of the most critical goals which we have set for ourselves is of reducing the emissions intensity of our production, GDP, by 45% by 2030. So by the end of the next 8 years, we have to achieve a reduction of emissions intensity. You can call it in very simple words carbon footprint, but it's actually much more than that. Emissions in relation to the GDP, the ratio has to be brought down by 45%. And you will be happy to know that we have already achieved a reduction of 24% as on 2018. Today we are sitting in 2023, so in the next 7 years we have to move from 24% to 45%. Of course, there are other targets. I will not go into other details, but the most important policy announcement which government has now made for us in the process of decarbonization is that of net zero goal. Net zero goal to be achieved by 2070, in the next 50 years. So we have 5 decades for us to decarbonize the society. Now, I'll also like to mention that decarbonization is not the same thing as becoming carbon neutral or becoming completely based on alternative fuels, low carbon fuels. Decarbonization means actually removing carbon from the entire energy system and the economic system, which is not going to happen. This is an ideal notion, but the science and the climate science, based on that modeling, we can safely predict that we may take all possible measures, but still, for various reasons, some amount of carbon will still be left in the system. Our modeling suggests that by 2050, even if we take all the measures to move the economy and allow the energy system to make a transition from currently fossil fuel-based economy to completely non-fossil fuel-based systems, there will still be some amount of carbon dioxide left in the system, about 3 billion tons by 2050. So what is it that we can do to remove that carbon? And that is necessary because of various things. Base load requirements of the electricity system, or the dependence of agriculture on some fertilizers. There are other ways. The transport system itself, if we don't have alternative fuels, we will still not be able to completely decarbonize it. So there will be some residuals of the carbon in the system. How do we tackle that? We have recently updated that nationally determined contributions, where we are concerned with 2030 goals. So what India is doing is now taking this decarbonization policy initiative in 2 time frames, 2030 and 2070. 2030 is the immediate short-term goal. In the next 8 years, we are supposed to achieve this, and very happily we are moving very well in this direction. We have achieved 26% by 2030. It is quite likely that we'll hit the target of 45%. The second important target is that of making the energy transition from fossil fuel-based economy to a low-carbon fuel-based economy. And that involves increasing the capacity of renewable energy, plus using low-carbon fuels in transport system, or even in agriculture, reducing the intake of water and fertilizers. So there are various ways in which we have to attempt the economic development process. But it's again on a happy note, we have achieved 42% of our renewable energy capacity already in 2022, which means that out of the total 408 gigawatt electricity generation capacity that we have in the country today, 42% is in form of renewable energy or clean energy. Renewable is basically solar and wind and biomass and offshore wind, but if you include nuclear and hydro, which are clean sources of energy, the total capacity at the moment is 42%. It is one thing to say that we have created a capacity. It is completely another to note that generation is different. Now we have, as far as generation is concerned, achieved a level of around 20 to 22%, which means the rest, 78% of our energy needs is still being met by the conventional fuels. And that is where the challenge lies. Because if we have to complete the energy transition process towards low carbon fuels or zero carbon fuels by 2050 or 2070 as per the net zero goal, then we have to make a extremely humongous amount of investment in the renewable energy sector. And that is where the challenge lies, to which the 2 ministers have referred to. There are other goals relating to adaptation, which is basically addressing the climate change impacts. Apart from the fact that we have to mitigate the emissions, we also have to see that the current adverse impacts of the climate change are also addressed. The people who are vulnerable to climate change, the poorer sections of society, the difficult regions of the country, the coastal regions, the mountain regions, which are being currently adversely impacted by climate change effects. You are seeing the disasters happening in the mountainous areas or in the coastal areas. These are all signals and very important signs of the damage which has happened to the ecosystem in our country. We need to address that immediately and build up climate resilient infrastructure. That also requires investment. So, towards meeting these energy transition goals, what is it that we have done? We have, as I said, we have already reached 42% of the renewable energy capacity, but we have to do much more to actually generate this renewable energy and feed the rising energy needs. India is actually a growing country. So at least in the near future, at least in the next 2 to 3 decades, till 2040 or 2045, until we reach the peak of our emissions, we are not going to reduce our carbon consumption. It is bound to increase, which means that we have to follow a trajectory of growth which is based on low carbon fuels and low carbon sources of energy. So not to say that our energy needs will go down, our energy needs are bound to go up as we grow and as we develop, but at the same time we have to follow a trajectory which is friendly to the environment, and that is where the investment and the technology challenges come in. For this, what is happening is that the investment in renewable energy sector is taking place. Actually, in the last 5 years, if you look at the track record of investments, it's again, I'm happy to say that the investments in the renewable energy sectors have actually grown up by 5 times, and more than what is happening in the coal sector. Actually, the coal sector, which is currently the mainstay of our energy system, there are no future investments taking place at least till 2030. Whatever has already been committed is going to take place, but beyond 2030, no investments are currently foreseen, which is the reason why coal as share of our electric capacity has practically stagnated. It is still the mainstay, still the main source, but future investments are going to take place in renewable energy sector, and hopefully it will contribute much more in future as well. Similarly, gas. The current policy regime is that from current 6% penetration in our energy system, it will grow up to 15% by 2030. This is a huge, huge ask because we don't have enough gas in the country. We are currently importing it. And that is the reason why we have to depend on newer technologies where we can convert coal into methanol and perhaps use it for transport system or for our shipping industry, where alternative fuels like methanol can be used, which are low carbon. They are not completely zero carbon, but still the emissions intensity can be brought down to a very large extent if we improve the gas uptake in the economy. The third is the nuclear. Nuclear is currently about 4% of our energy needs. Around 5 to 6,000 gigawatt comes from nuclear energy, megawatts. And the target is, the policy goal is to raise it by 3% at least. Now, there are difficulties in the nuclear energy. Of course, because we are not members of nuclear supplier group, we have serious problems in raw material supply. The technology is still not fully accessible to us because of various constraints. So we will have a problem there, but we can still raise it to a certain extent that it can meet the base load capacity of the electricity system. Biofuel blending norms have been revised. As you know, we have actually advanced the goal of blending the fuels, ethanol in our petrol and diesel to the extent of 20% by 2025. The earlier goal was to be achieved by 2030, which Prime Minister has now advanced it. So this is again a salutary movement, a very positive policy signal for the industry to take. The industry has to invest in the capacity for generating these sustainable fuels. Biofuels are a rising industry, but we have to invest here. And this investment doesn't need finance, it needs technology. We have to find the various technologies for the feedstock which can create this biofuel, whether it is from solid waste or whether it is from agricultural waste, agricultural residues, or it is from coal or from some other source. So we will have to actually look at this very closely to be able to meet this goal. But everything actually contributes to the overall energy transition. You have also heard of the production-linked incentives. It's a very important signal for the industry. So government has announced almost $11 billion of investment through production-linked incentives. This is a golden opportunity for the industry to utilize. Now let's come to the carbon markets in India, which is also a part of this overall signaling. And the president of the India-Japan Chamber of Commerce was actually referring to this when he talked of joint crediting mechanism. Now, the way carbon market is evolving in India, people say that carbon market is an instrument of regulation, but I would like to submit to you that it is also an instrument for financing the renewable energy or alternative energy investments. The industry can moderate the costs if the carbon market is good and effective. What has happened in India, currently we have a renewable energy certificate system, we have an energy saving certificate system, we have a coal cess. These are all instruments of the carbon markets, but these are fragmented. So in different segments of the energy market, we have different instruments. Currently, the policy goal is to bring them under an overarching system of a new carbon market, for which the Energy Conservation Act has been recently amended by the Parliament, and hopefully when the renewable energy obligations are cast on the industries, the major industrial players, there will be high demand for carbon credits, and then there will be a functioning carbon market in India, where all of you who are looking at investments from Japan into India or India-Japan cooperation can perhaps benefit from this carbon trading. Long term, I'll just take 2 minutes more. The important signal which has now been given to the industry through a net zero goal by the Honorable Prime Minister is that we have to start moving towards this ultimate goal of decarbonization by 2070. We have a long way to go. We have 5 decades, but we have to start preparing now, because the goals keep changing. The short-term goals will also keep getting updated in the process. So what the long-term low-emission development strategy put out by the government says that we have to look at the development in these 6 sectors: the electricity system, the transport system, the urbanization, the habitat, the industrial system, the industries, where basically we need to shift from current coal and gas to green hydrogen, and lastly the forests. So these are the 6 sectors where carbon decarbonization strategies will be implemented in the long term. There will be several technology and financing initiatives here. Some of them have already started, as I just explained, but our effort has to be to ensure that in the long term we invest in those areas where we can move faster towards alternative fuels and low carbon fuels like green hydrogen, biofuels. Way forward, you have, we know that if India and Japan has to cooperate, we have to look at some of these sectors. So some of the possible areas for our cooperation include this, which again I refer back to the intervention made by the President of India-Japan Chamber of Commerce. He referred to 3 things: the carbon markets, joint crediting mechanism, the circular economy, and of course the hazardous substances. But I think there is a huge potential if we look at the industrial sector, the decarbonization of the transport system, and the circular economy. Both of them have huge role where Japan has not only investments but also technology. So we can certainly take advantage of this fact and use it to our mutual advantage. Thank you very much for giving me this time.
Thank you for your speech. May I now request Mr. Anak Singh, Senior Manager, Invest India, to kindly deliver the keynote speech. Environmental infrastructure and technologies needs for building a decarbonized society in India. Mr. Singh, please.
A very good afternoon to all ladies and gentlemen gathered here today. I'm Anak Singh. I work for the Prime Minister's Science, Technology, Innovation and Advisory Council, which is housed at Invest India. I work with the Agni mission, and I lead the climate change and the defense and public security unit there. It is executed in partnership, as I mentioned earlier, with Invest India. It is also one of the 9 missions that has been launched by the Prime Minister. What we do is that we pioneer and partner with government agencies and private sector agencies to formulate emerging technology responses, answering some of India's toughest challenges, whether it's ecological sustainability, climate change, public safety, national security, agriculture, and livelihood. These challenges and these formulation answers are capable of scaling, emulation, and replication for wider impact. As we know, and as has been spoken earlier, India has committed itself to the fight and mitigation of climate change. Indians will be affected by the damage of climate change, which can inflict populations in the future generations as well. Agni today is collaborating with the pioneering government agencies to identify and establish examples of how technology can help India mitigate and to adapt to climate change. Climate change represents a significant threat to the Indian economy due to evident heat stress, reduction in freshwater supply, soil drying up, more intensive tropical cyclones, so on and so forth. At the same time, global warming is also creating economic opportunities for India and partner countries as new technologies and industries require to decarbonization that must be developed, manufactured, and deployed at scale. Without the urgent global action, temperatures are likely to reach about 4.9 degrees Celsius by the end of the century, even with the current policies in place. Achieving the Paris Do you know where the presentation? Do you know where the presentation is? Yeah. So as I mentioned, this was just the slides that were going on earlier. We're part of the Prime Minister's Science, Technology, Innovation Advisory Council. So as I was mentioning earlier, that emerging economies like India will have to decouple economic growth from its greenhouse gas emission targets and to put the economy on a low carbon pathway. So ultimately, India's climate policy challenge and technology challenge is in this particular context, and there is an urgent need to create millions of jobs, increase income, and improve public safety in this constricted space. To be sure, India's systems of technology have significantly improved in the last 2 decades. The government's efforts to promote renewable energy and technologies reflect a high level of policy support, which is ambitious in nature, and the decarbonization pathways are technically defined by 2 elements. One is technology and the other is finance. As far as technologies is concerned, I'll just pass by We have been looking at mitigation, adaptation, and financing. We've been working with pioneering departments in terms of how climate laboratories can be set up in Himalayan states, how Indian innovation can design solutions where Japanese interventions can also come in to provide climate-based solutions towards Ladakh, towards Uttarakhand, and towards Sikkim, and so on and so forth. As far as technologies is concerned, I have grouped them into 3 buckets. One is alternate energy resources, the other is carbon value chain, and the third one is short and long-term renewable energy storage. Reaching net zero at global scale will take a variety of renewable energy sources, more than just wind and solar power. The need for post-carbon solutions has grown particularly acute in areas that have very few viable alternatives, such as commercial vehicle fleets, maritime shipping, energy-intensive industries like steel, cement production, so on and so forth. In the near term, take for example, synthetic fuels will have the potential to make an immediate and positive impact. Every new source, from synthetic fuel to green hydrogen, where a mission was recently launched by the government, adds to the potential to reduce emissions more broadly, not just in transport, but in other carbon-dependent industries. As far as the carbon value chain is concerned, the carbon capture concept is not new. The technology has been around since the late 1970s, when oil and gas companies wanted to capture carbon dioxide from the natural gas production processes to not just inject into oil wells to improve recovery. As these technologies continue to become more robust and sophisticated, investors have just begun focusing on methods that use stored carbon productively and profitably. Investments in vegetation and soil storage can make these carbon management options a major part of decarbonization in the near future. Our office estimates that these solutions could trickle down from right now, as a matter of fact, of $100 billion to a $1 trillion economy, giving them a net present value greater than the total market capitalization of today's oil and gas majors. Artificial intelligence being another aspect, emission monitoring technologies such as sensors on carbon landfill, drones, satellites. Their approaches could be utilized for a wide range of industries, including green finance, carbon capture, and even fight against greenwashing. The fact remains that as far as renewable energy storage is concerned, it will help bridge the gap between the time when the electricity is generated to the moment it is used. It's a big sector to be considered. Consider batteries, which have been around for now more than 2 centuries. Recent advances have made storing electricity from vast solar arrays and batteries during the day economically viable. The fact is that improvements to other existing technologies can also play a key role. For example, efficient gas-powered turbines can reduce consumption by electricity generators. Gains in efficiency of solar panel technology are driving scale and cost efficiencies. Wave and tidal power are poised to become online at scale because there is no single storage solution that's effective in all applications. And the use of current technologies will certainly be part of the world's energy future. In the near future, the most significant growth areas in decarbonizations aren't ends unto themselves. Rather, they serve as catalysts for future innovation and emission reductions. The Agni mission, which I am part of, typically deals with the convening power of the government, and we hope that the convening power can bring along countries which can partner in the decarbonization journey that India has undertaken. As these technologies continue to evolve, they will spur further innovation and investment opportunities as the world transitions determinedly towards a near zero future. Thank you.